Hey everyone, since it's now well into May, I figured it was about time that I film my April wrap-up. Quantity-wise, April was a really great month. I ended up reading 9 novels, which is great for me. However, I need a disclaimer to say that of those novels, 5 of them were graphic novels, which definitely explains the reason for my increase in the number. And in terms of quality, I'd say my month was a little bit mixed. I had some books I liked quite a bit and some books I wasn't too crazy about. But let's just get started. First, I want to talk about the graphic novels I read. I read 2 comic books, both by Geoff that were about the Green Lantern. The first was Green Lantern Rebirth and the second was Green Lantern The Sinestro Wars. I read these 2 comics for my graphic novel book club and it was definitely a change of pace. I had very little background in superheroes and really didn't know a lot about the Green Lantern, was honestly a little bit confused. I didn't actually give them star ratings on Goodreads because I just didn't feel qualified to give them a proper review because I didn't know honestly how I felt about them. But moving right along, I also read 2 graphic novels by Brian K. Vaughn, who's most famous for Saga, and I read volumes 1 and 2 of Why the Last Man, which is a graphic novel he wrote prior to Saga, and I'm really enjoying the series so far. I will definitely be continuing on with the last 3 to 10 volumes. Really looking forward to that. What it's about is a man who basically survives a gendercide, so all the men in the world except for him, somehow he's able to survive this mysterious virus, something that knocks out all the men in the world besides him. And it's just his story of trying to survive in this world that's now run by females and just the aftermath of what would happen if all the men were gone. You really have to take this one with a grain of salt. I know quite a few feminists on Goodreads were insulted and offended by some of the assumptions made in the graphic novel, but honestly I found it to be a lot of fun. I really enjoy Brian K. Vaughn's humor and just, yeah, really fun read. Looking forward to continuing on this year. The last graphic novel I read this month was Potter's Field by Mark Waid. I am really enjoying Mark Waid's graphic novels. Primarily, I know he writes a lot of superhero comic books like Daredevil. However, I've only read his kind of non-superhero graphic novels, but really enjoying them so far. Last month, I read The Unknown by him, which was awesome, and this month, I was blown away by Potter's Field. Really cool concept. It's about a guy who is only known as John Doe, and what he does is he investigates people who are buried in Potter's Field. And what a Potter's Field is a cemetery where bodies that can't be identified are buried, and basically he goes around and figures out who those people were and puts their names on their grave. Just an awesome, straight crime fiction noir graphic novel. Highly recommend if you're looking for something different and something new. I feel like there's kind of those graphic novels like I talked about over and over again on BookTube, and Mark Waid is just fresh. No one else is reading him and he's fantastic. So please go read Mark Waid's graphic novels. Awesome, I'm hooked. Now I also read 4 novels this month. The first being The Interestings by Meg Wolitzer. I read this for my book club and it's really hard to describe this book without calling it interesting because it was interesting. Essentially, it follows 6 people who meet in childhood at this camp for really talented people, and it just follows them through their lives. And it deals with a lot of really interesting concepts, things like whether or not talent is enough to be successful, or the roles of social class and jealousy and envy, and there's so much in this novel. It's quite long, it's almost 500 pages, and it's just very complex. Really makes you think. I didn't love it. I wouldn't rave about it honestly, but at the same time there were those moments in the novel where the story really spoke to me and I actually wanted to write down a paragraph or a sentence because it just really resonated with the human condition, and there definitely are gems in that novel if you want to take the time to look through it. So that was the first one. Again, The Interestings. It was interesting. After that, I read Still Missing by Chevy. This is a bit of a thriller mystery about a real estate agent who goes missing, and essentially she's kidnapped and held for a year in this cabin up in the woods, and then it deals with her trying to basically rehabilitate and come back into society. And it's kind of told back and forth between flashbacks to her year being kidnapped as well as her coming back home and having these counselor sessions and going over her inability kind of to get back to a normal life. And it was thrilling for the first 100 pages, and the story started to unravel for me. I definitely found there were holes in the story itself, but unfortunately what really got me is I just really struggled with Chevy Stevens' writing. It was full of cliches, and just the writing started to grate on me. It just felt very poor, so I didn't end up loving it per se, but you know, it was alright. I gave it 2 stars. After that, I read Pride and Prejudice by the great Jane Austen. I read this as a buddy read with Manna from The Thrifty Reader. I'll put her channel link down below if you aren't subscribed. And this was my first time reading Pride and Prejudice, and it was pretty good. I didn't love it as much as everyone else did, but I definitely respect that Austen is a very good writer. This was very well written, very interesting, and I know I'm glad to have finally read it. I know who Mr. Darcy is. I feel like I know the plot of this, so I don't feel like I'm the only person who is on the outside looking in, so happy about that. It's not typically the genre I would normally read, so I don't know if this is just my type of classic that I'm like enthralled by, but it was still very good and I'm happy to have read it. And the last novel I read this month was Wintergirls by Laurie Halse Anderson. I read this for the Dewey's 24-hour readathon and was really pleasantly surprised by how much I liked this. This is a young adult novel about a teenage girl who's struggling with anorexia. The story opens with the death of her ex-best friend, who also struggled with an eating disorder, and it's just, I know, I love Laurie Halse Anderson. I previously read Speak, which I still think is the stronger novel, but there's just something about Anderson's writing which is just fantastic. I feel like she has this amazing ability to get into the mind of a teenager who has issues and struggles, and there's something just so raw about her writing. I just really adore it, and I was so surprised how much I liked it. I gave this one 4 stars on Goodreads. It wasn't quite a 5-star read, but still really enjoyed it. It was just such a powerful novel, and it was one of those books that I did not want to put down. I expected that for the readathon I would be switching books up quite a bit, but I ended up reading it the entire day, and that's very rare for me to be able to read a book from start to finish in one day. So thoroughly enjoyed that one. If you read young adult, absolutely recommend picking that up. Even if you don't read a lot of young adult, which I don't, it's one of those books that for me kind of is worth delving into the genre because it was standout amazing. I love her writing. I really want to read the rest of her collection because so far I'm very impressed by everything I've read by her. That's about it. If you're curious about what I'm reading this month, I did do a May TBR, so I'll link that down below. Otherwise, I'll come back with another video. Talk to y'all soon. Okay, bye.